They are our fathers, brothers, mothers and sisters, neighbors, heroes. Canada's veterans, their courage, service, and sacrifice will never be forgotten. On November 11th, let's remember them. Visit canada.ca/rememberthem.
My grandparents on my Polish and Russian side, my grandfather is Polish and my grandmother is Russian, and they were both picked up by the Germans and they were forced to work during World War II. My grandfather was on a work farm and my grandmother was in a hotel where German officers stayed. She remembers being picked up by the Germans and being in a boxcar with 70 or 80 other women, and they stopped the boxcar at a train station and they made all the women get out and line up. And they asked if any of the women spoke German, and she did. She was training to become a teacher, and she was training in languages, and she did speak German. So she was pulled off the train, and she was forced to work in this hotel for the rest of the war, where German officers stayed, and she has no idea where the boxcar was going, right?
She joined the military when she was 18, right out of high school, decided that she wanted to serve. She started off as a summer job that ended as a 30-year job career. She has done many tours of duty. She has gone to the Gaza Strip and done some peacekeeping over there. She's also been part of the comm squad in Afghanistan, which is the first time Canada has been involved in a conflict since the Korean War. She was one of very few females that have actually been over in combat, and she's military through and through. She is a very proud Canadian, and she is very proud to serve in the Canadian Armed Forces.
All right, so my grandfather was an artist, a self-taught artist, and he actually documented through pictures, drawings, his experiences through the war. His drawings were actually displayed in Brighton, England during wartime, and thankfully I've got copies of those drawings. My grandfather passed away 10 years ago, so it's nice to have that, those memories, that keepsake.
Reginald fought during World War II and he was killed in the Northern Italy campaign. And unfortunately, during the time of the war, not a lot of information was released about his burial. So we only had a number and we never really had a place. So it took a lot of digging on my part, 2 generations later, to find out where he had been buried. And I decided to try to make the trek. So I took the train there and found the gravesite, and was quite surprised to see that the whole hillside is covered in Canadians. And there's a small hole in the side of the wall, the stoned-in wall that goes around the graveyard, and there's a book inside this glass case where Canadians can sign their names who have visited. So I found it, took pictures, and sent a postcard home to my grandmother indicating that the irony was that there are yellow flowers growing all around his grave, the same yellow flowers my grandmother plants every year. So when the postcard arrived, the way that they explained it to me was my grandmother would not take the mail when they told her the postcard was there, because to her it was the equivalent of the day that the telegram arrived that he passed away. So it was quite an emotional for me to be there, and emotional for my grandmother at the time.
My grandfather, Melançon, a private Melançon, was in World War II, and he was sent to Europe as a gunman, and he was actually shot in both legs, and he ended up losing both legs later on in life. And my uncle, Corporal Chef Melançon, who was the youngest of the family, decided to follow in my grandfather's footsteps. And he was sent throughout Canada, but at age 40, he was sent to Haiti to help the country regain power, I guess. So he was on a peacekeeping mission, but he was on the front lines a lot, so he was basically shot at every day, or he had to shoot people every day, young and old. So when he came back, for the past 10 years, he's been dealing with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and he has a skin disease and a blood disease because it was so dirty over there, and apparently there is no cure. What they did without any hesitation, and they suffered through everything, and they did it because they're very strong men they have a very big heart, and they did it to help their friends and families and to help our country, and I think that's something to be very proud of.
So my grandfather's name was Earl Grey, although everyone who knew him called him Curly, and during World War II he served in the Royal Canadian Navy on board a minesweeping ship called the Vegreville. And on June 5th, 1944, his ship was sent to the English Channel to help remove mines from the channel so that transport ships carrying troops for the D-Day invasion would be able to get as close to the beach as possible. And while the D-Day invasion was going on, his ship helped to provide cover fire for the soldiers who were landing, and then unfortunately when the battle was over, his ship had the unenviable task of collecting the wounded soldiers and ferrying them back to hospitals in France. And the things that he saw that day were so traumatic for him that when he returned home after the war, he was never able to talk about his experiences. And it wasn't until many, many years later, and he returned to France and once again walked along those beaches and helped participate in the 50th anniversary celebrations for D-Day, that he finally came to some peace with what happened. And so when he returned to Canada, he finally told us, his family, about what he had witnessed and his part in the war. And not only did he share his stories with us, but he was actually selected as one of the veterans who shared their stories with the Heroes Remember. So you can actually now go onto the Veterans Affairs website and you can see his stories told in his own words.
I'm here today to talk to you about my two sons, Sean and Colin. They're 25, and Colin just turned 21 yesterday. And my brand new daughter-in-law, Mallory. And they are all members of the Canadian Forces. And after spending a significant career there myself, I was pleased but hesitant to see my sons join. And I've watched them through their trials and tribulations as they've gone through the early stages of their careers, and I'm just really, really proud of where they've gone and the choices they've made. Sean, he's an artillery officer with 2 Royal Canadian Horse Artillery in Petawawa, Ontario. Colin, he's a crewman, an armored crewman, gets to drive 65-ton Leopard 2 tanks through the plains of Alberta. And Mallory, she is an electrical mechanical engineering officer, so she's an engineer, and she's actually in the branch I used to be in. Mallory just actually did a deployment with the DART team in Nepal after that earthquake, and so she got to witness firsthand what this amazing heritage of help that the Canadian Forces does. And so, you know, that's something that I think a lot of reason why people get into the Canadian Forces isn't just, you know, the war fighting. They know they can make a difference, and Mallory's got to experience that already.
My grandmother's name is Mila Polyanova, and I'm proud of her because of the struggles and her perseverance and what she accomplished in her life.
Her name is Barb Anderson, and I'm most proud of her for sacrificing everything, her family and her friends, to help support our proud country of Canada.
His name's Gordon Thompson, and I guess I'm most proud of the fact that through a very trying time through the war, he was able to keep his sense of humor, which comes through on his drawings.
His name was Reginald Downey from Lorneville, New Brunswick, outside of St. John, and I'm proud of him because of his contribution to Canada, our right to vote, and the freedom and liberties that we have today.
So this is my grandfather, Gérald Melançon, and this is my uncle, Normand Melançon, and I'm very proud of them because they were very brave, perseverant, and have a heart of gold.
So his name was Curly Grey, and I am proud of him because he found the courage to share his stories so that while he is now no longer with us, the memories that he had and the experiences that he had remain for the generations to come.
My sons' names are Sean and Colin Van Turnhout. My daughter-in-law, her name is Mallory Litchens. I'm extremely proud of these guys for the life they're choosing, the sacrifices they've probably yet to make, and the unknown charted waters that they're about to cross. I'm really proud of them for that.